Hi, I'm Lauren Fleming, the founder of Hem Supportwear, and today I have Jordan Searles with me. She's a high school health and physical education teacher and the founder of Muscle Mama Fitness, which is an online personal training business. She's certified through NASM, ProNatal, and Girls Gone Strong. She specializes in prenatal and postpartum fitness. She's inspired by her own pregnancy challenges, and she combines her expertise and experience to offer customized programs, education, and support for women who are navigating fitness during motherhood. Her mission is to empower mothers to feel strong, confident, and supported at every stage. Jordan, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Can we just jump right in by having you tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to work in this space?
Sure. I always loved personal training, working out, and working with people, and my own postpartum journey really inspired me to go and get that specialization of prenatal and postpartum training, basically. So, my experience, even with my own training and NASM certification, going through my own workouts, I still felt like I didn't really have a lot of knowledge on how to train while being pregnant. Like I was incredibly fit going into my pregnancy, so I really didn't know like, okay, when should I start modifying? When should I stop lifting heavier or, when should I start to do things? And then a lot of the feedback that I got was just listen to your body. And I'm like, well, what am I listening for? Like
Right.
I don't know. And also like I was an athlete, so unfortunately I learned a lot of habits of like, well, like kind of push through pain or like, kind of push yourself more. So I was scared of doing that while I was pregnant because I was scared of not listening to my body when it was trying to
Mhm.
tell me something.
Right.
So that was really inspired me to really dive in deep and get two different certifications from two different companies, basically, so that I really could provide that extra help to women that like I wish I had, basically.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like there's a good amount of people in this space who really are drawn to it because they want a better experience than what they were afforded. And it's cool to see that transformation for folks and the community, expanded in that way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Will you tell us a little bit about like what a typical day or week looks like for you juggling your different roles?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a full-time health and phys ed teacher, so I work at a high school. So typically, the reason why I went the online route to start my business is one, because of my schedule, and two, I also just looking at my schedule and how I'm handling motherhood, and also just talking to a bunch of my friends too, their schedules change daily, right? Like something will come up in the morning. It's like, well, I won't be able to make it into the gym at all today. Or, oh,
Mhm.
well, something else popped up. Now I've got only 20 minutes. So I found that working with moms online has been a really good start because then they can also accommodate the workouts to their schedule. So basically, how I do it is I set it up through an app and the workout with all of the demonstration of the videos and the exercises, they can choose to either, they could do it at 5:30 in the morning if they want to, or they could do it at 5 o'clock at
Mhm.
night. And it works best for their schedule that they can literally just like plug it anywhere that fits. And that's what we've found a lot of success with, again, is just you can't, especially in those first, couple years,
Yeah.
you can't have a like set schedule. And just when you get into a set schedule,
Yep.
something else comes up, either
Yes. Yeah.
teething, sleep regression, sickness, like
Right.
so I found that the online space has definitely been really helpful for moms.
hmm
But the goal is eventually to not teach anymore and do this full time. And we're working on actually upgrading our home gym to hopefully maybe help people in person a little bit more because I do get a lot of requests for that. And
hmm
I would love to work with people one on one, but it's just with scheduling and
Sure.
my, two jobs, it's tough.
Yep. Yes. No, I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, flexibility is key in these years.
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing I definitely learned like right off the bat. Like I thought I
Yes.
had an understanding of flexibility. It's like,
Right.
no, no, you need to be even more
Right.
flexible.
Yeah, even more than you can imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So I know you've worked with pelvic floor physical therapists. Can you explain to us the relationship as you see it between fitness and pelvic floor health?
Yeah, definitely. So basically what I really encourage a lot of first-time moms to do, again, also based off of my own experience, is really actually start to learn to connect to those muscles
Hmm.
and understanding that like you can work them. They're exactly like a bicep. They're exactly
Yeah.
like glutes. Like they can be worked, right? So, and also learning to fully contract while also fully relaxing, right? Like a lot of women have the trouble of
Hmm.
fully relaxing those muscles, which can also really help for birth, right? And
Hmm.
understanding how to like go through that flow and incorporating your breath into that. So that is definitely one thing after working with some pelvic floor PTs, going to pelvic floor physical therapy myself, and a lot of that is also preached in our personal training certifications is that connection to the pelvic floor. And for postpartum, it definitely comes a lot more into play with incontinence, pain during intercourse. There's so many things that become related to the pelvic floor, even if, you have a vaginal delivery or even a C-section delivery,
Right.
it can happen to anyone.
Hmm.
So I think that also really incorporating or being aware of your general lifestyle in pregnancy and postpartum of really not getting like stuck in position. So like not sitting for very long time periods, or if you notice that, you cross your legs one way like all the time and especially postpartum when you're breastfeeding, it's just like all kind of bad posture. It all relates and is all connected to one another.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of like the key points really that I really try to
Hmm.
tell my clients and tell anyone who's interested in anything is like one, definitely start to learn to connect to those muscles and really understand how they're
Hmm.
connected to everything else.
Yeah. I feel like that's such an important one because there's definitely a big learning curve for folks, I think, on, what is a pelvic floor? Everyone has one. How does it work? What is it connected to? How
Yeah.
does my breath impact it? And, the more you start to kind of understand that, um, yeah, the more you just really understand like how everything is so connected and then impacts everything. And I know, like, for me, going through pelvic floor PT, really like learning to engage my pelvic floor muscles was like such a steep learning curve. But as I, got better at that, seeing then how it impacted my workouts and like,
Yeah.
they were more effective when I was doing things properly, or my symptoms from prolapse were less if I was breathing properly, and managing load or lugging my kids around, and doing
Mhm.
that big exhale. And, um, yeah, it's been interesting just kind of seeing how all of that's so interrelated. Um, and then just my lack of understanding from where I started, to where I am now has,
Yeah.
been a tremendous journey to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so crazy that like no one really talks about that really at
No,
all. Even,
no,
you don't even really need to be pregnant, have kids to still deal with pelvic floor issues. Like there are
right,
athletes that, pee themselves while they're working out and they didn't have kids.
right.
So it's not talked about enough that yes, you can learn to connect to those muscles. You just need a little guidance on how,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I know I feel like I'm seeing a lot in like social media and the news, like where certain kind of things regarding public health are kind of getting all this attention, but with some of those are definitely misconceptions and myths. What are some of the common ones that you've come across that you feel like we really need to work to educate people on?
I wrote down a list because there's a lot, but I'll pick my top couple of ones. I think one of the big ones that I also encountered, which was incredibly frustrating, was the you can't lift more than 20 pounds either in pregnancy or postpartum. That was
Hmm.
incredibly frustrating for me, and I think it's just doctors just making a blanket statement, right? Like
Yeah,
they have to kind of just apply that to everyone just so they don't get in trouble for anything, but also the fact that they don't have the education for it. Like think about it, like OBGYNs, doctors, they need to really study and learn like the life-saving skills. Like they
hmm,
need to know, how to address the really major health problems. A lot of their education doesn't incorporate how to teach people how to exercise while they're pregnant or
right,
postpartum. It's not their job. And
right.
that's a main reason why I became a specialist. It's like someone needs to focus on this to help people.
Hmm.
So that the can't lift more than 20 pounds. Yes, you can. Especially when we have kids that are 35
Right,
pounds. What are you going to do? Not lift your kid?
right.
And that was actually something that my OBGYN told me. So I went and got a different OBGYN after this conversation, but I was about a year postpartum and I expressed my concerns of still feeling like that heaviness. And she actually looked at me and said, "When you stop picking up your son, you'll feel better." And I'm like, "So in 4 years, I'll feel
Right.
better? Because, like,
Yeah.
when am I going to stop picking up my son?
Right.
Like, I'm confused." And, like, I laughed in the office and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, you're serious." So needless to say, that's a big one. It's,
Hmm.
you need to figure out how, again, pelvic floor physical therapy is huge, and learning how to connect to those muscles while you're exercising helps with
Yeah.
that. But yes, you can lift over 20 pounds if you're doing it correctly with good form, with good breath
Hmm.
work, managing the pressure.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a huge one for sure. One, and it's so
Yeah,
hard too to like hear stuff like that from providers because they're like, one, it's not helpful advice when reality is you are going to be doing that and you want to be doing that.
yeah.
And so, those
It's very
situations are very
dismissive.
frustrating. It is. It's
Yeah,
very hard to hear
yeah.
that.
I think another big one too that I've been pushing a lot is the 6 week and 8 week checkup, and how that's like the big, like, oh, I'm cleared for exercise, or like
Yeah.
even like I'm cleared for intercourse now. It's like,
Right.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. So basically, your healing timeline of just like if you roll an ankle or like get some kind of musculoskeletal injury, the typical timeline for that is like 12 weeks of healing, let alone childbirth, right? So basically, it's like kind of broken down into like three different stages. So you have your inflammatory stage, which is redness, swelling, pain. That can be 4 to 6 days or so. And then you have basically the repair and healing phase. And that could last anywhere between like 10 weeks to almost a year. And then on top of that, then you have like things get rebuilt, things
Hmm.
are recovering, they're still weak. So now you need to strengthen those things. Your ligaments, tendons, muscles, everything needs to get strengthened again to just be
Right.
competent in daily life and moving. So that, could take another 6 months to another year, again, depending on your recovery. So,
Hmm.
basically you're looking at like it's a huge timeline and it's all different for every single woman.
Right.
And it could be anywhere between like roughly 14 weeks, like that whole process of 14 weeks, to up to 2 years.
Hmm.
So I think that's like the biggest thing is like I don't understand why doctors are saying, yeah, you're good to go exercise at 6 weeks.
Right.
And a lot of women are like, oh, exercise, I'll just do what
Go
I
right
did
back to what
before
I
I got
did. Right.
pregnant. And it's like, oh, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
I know.
So yeah, I think that's the biggest push right now, especially for postpartum, like at just helping guide women on how to get back to those exercises that they want to do in a
Hmm.
safe, progressive manner, and just being
Right.
aware of symptoms and watching things and helping educate women on that.
Yeah, and that one I feel like it really is truly such a big one that I do think is very prevalent. And also directly tied to that is folks thinking like if an OBGYN is who provided their care, for pregnancy and delivery, that like that they're the one sign off that they need too, because it's like an OBGYN doesn't necessarily look at all of the pelvic floor things that you may like be experiencing. And so it's like, sure, from the perspective of your uterus or
Like
sutures or
healing.
things like that, yeah, you're good. You're
Mhm.
you're you're progressing, I guess, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to it than that. And
Mhm.
for folks who aren't aware of all of those things, yeah, they hear that, okay, I've made my 6 week checkup, and it's like you're barely like
Barely.
there's so much going on, at that point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really hard to kind of break down just that messaging that's been told over and over again, and especially in this
Mhm.
like bounce back culture and advertising and all those kinds of things. It's like it's a lot to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we're already in a vulnerable state of like,
Yes.
I just want to get back to moving,
Yep.
right? And especially if you're used to working out so much, you
Right.
just that's all you just want to feel good. You want to feel
Yeah.
yourself again. You want to just have time to yourself.
Yes.
And, and I did it myself too. I was just like, oh, 6 weeks, like here we go. Like I can like do something. And
Right.
like I was not. I was not ready. Like I want to
Oh,
say it was, I think a month later or so, I was able to get into pelvic floor physical therapy. And they're like, oh yeah, you have like a grade one, maybe two-ish
yeah,
prolapse. And I'm like, well, that didn't come up in my 6 weeks. And they're like, yeah,
right,
I don't even know if they checked. I'm like, I wouldn't know either. I didn't know to
right,
ask.
right. Well, yeah, it's like you don't know how to ask. And I feel like something I experienced personally was I didn't have the words to describe the things I was feeling. Like to say, I'm feeling
Yes.
heaviness. Like
Yeah.
that was not a descriptor
No,
that I
I just
knew
felt
at that
swollen.
time. Yeah, I was like,
It was like,
something's wrong. I like
yeah.
showed them a picture and they're like, no, I think you're fine. I think you're just progressing. And I was like, okay. I mean, and thankfully I had pelvic floor PT lined up. And when I was able to talk with her, one, she gave me the language. And then two, she confirmed like, yeah, you do have a prolapse. These are the things. And, we'll go this direction or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's hard. There's
Yeah,
so
the
much
words.
going
That's
on.
that like
Yeah.
you like hit the nail on the head for that. It's like I agree.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like the best that I could come up with is like I feel swollen, but like that also makes sense because my like I
Yeah.
knew my tissues were still healing.
Right.
Like I
Yes.
understood that. So I just
Right.
didn't know
Yeah.
how else to
Yeah. I
say
feel
it.
like that language that alone is really empowering for people when they can start to put words to what they're feeling, but you've never used those words before. And so it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's really hard to navigate that I don't know, that part of everything.
Hmm.
Um, will you talk to us a little bit about some simple like lifestyle exercises or habits that people can adopt to improve their pelvic floor health through fitness. This could be during pregnancy, postpartum, kind of whichever, phase you feel like would be
Yeah.
helpful to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So during pregnancy, a couple of things to just be aware of is that like heaviness feeling, the feeling of, a tampon coming out, any kind of just pressure that feels like it's coming down and out.
Mhm.
That's definitely just things to be aware of during pregnancy and just maybe a sign of just to back off. That doesn't mean you can't do an exercise. It could be just like maybe you need to elevate your hands a little bit more, maybe you need to go a little bit lighter in weight. Maybe you need to do that exercise earlier in the workout when you're less
Yeah.
fatigued, right? Like when your muscles get fatigued, they don't work as well. So, yeah, you could probably do that exercise maybe at the beginning of your workout and then not do it at the end just to avoid fatiguing those muscles.
Mhm.
Some other things, I touched upon it before a little bit too, is just general posture and again, being a little more mobile and being aware of what positions you're in a majority of the day, especially during pregnancy, right? Like you tend to get sucked into the couch, you tend to sit a little bit more. So that can definitely have an effect on your pelvic floor muscles and hip muscles and glutes and hamstrings, everything that's connected down there, basically. And then for postpartum, you're kind of looking out for those same symptoms, and that's where diastasis can pop up. So that's the separation of the ab muscles, and working on that is again another thing that's just not really talked about in
Yeah.
your 6 or 8 week check too. Like they checked for me, and I had roughly like two and a half, three fingers,
Hmm.
and she like didn't even say anything about PT for that. She just said, "Oh yeah, you got like three fingers," and I'm like, "Okay, can I go see a physical therapist for this?" And then she said the same thing. Well, why don't we? She goes, "Why don't we wait until you have pain or have symptoms and then you go?" And I'm like, "Why can't I be ahead of it?"
Proactive. Right.
I was
Right.
so confused by that. I'm like, three fingers, like that's like clinical diastasis. Like
Right.
I need to get this checked and fixed and I want to work on this. So, um, yeah, basically is just postpartum is really just trying to stay moving symptom free, really being a little more accepting of, some days you're gonna have really good days, some days you're gonna have not so good days, you're gonna feel like you went 10 steps backwards.
Yeah.
And it's just slow and steady is really like the mantra for postpartum. It's like
Yeah.
very slow, but it'll be
Yes.
steady.
Right. No, yeah, I think that that's a good thing to throw out there because I think I don't know, especially for people who are what's the word I'm thinking of? Like accomplishment and they like to, check things and make the
Yeah.
progress and hit the
Yeah.
goals. Like it
Very
can be
like goal
hard.
oriented and
Yes, yeah, it
yeah.
can be hard postpartum because
Mhm.
a lot of your expectations they just aren't met. It's a very different experience.
Yeah.
And I think resetting some of those expectations can be helpful. And it's the What are some of the things I see a lot, which is just like the consistency, over perfection, and things like that, something versus nothing, I think that can go a long way,
Yeah.
especially for parents who are trying to
Yeah.
navigate
One
fitness.
of my like favorite visuals too is like everyone thinks like, oh, postpartum recovery is like a slow like incline. It's like no, it's like a loop-de-loop backwards diagonal
Yes.
like up and down like
Yep. Right.
that is postpartum recovery. Like it does eventually end up, but
Yes.
how you get
Exactly.
there
But
and
yeah,
how
yeah, it's like you
long.
do go from here to here, but it is not a straight line to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one because it is so true.
Mhm.
Great. Will you tell us or share with us a success story from someone that's gone through one of your fitness programs?
Sure. So I worked with a woman who she came to me when she was in her second trimester. So she had her previous birth was a C-section, and she came to me with a goal of a VBAC. So she was hoping, to have a vaginal delivery, and she just wanted to get ready for that and really prepare her body. And she ended up doing it. She did great job. She also ended up developing gestational diabetes during that, so I had to work with her nutritionally through that. She was working with an outside nutritionist. That was who her OBGYN recommended, and of course, that's what we stuck with. But, I was able to work with the nutritionist a little bit, ask some questions, just make sure we were all like on the same page and connected and working together. And it was really awesome. She did a wonderful job, and she came back, and she messaged me probably, I think like right around her 6 week appointment, like maybe a couple weeks after that. And she said her postpartum recovery was also night and day,
Wow.
just with how she felt too. Like she said that she really didn't work out too much with her first pregnancy. And then when she started working out with me, she generally felt better in her pregnancy. And then she also noted that like her postpartum recovery, she felt stronger at certain points than
Hmm.
she did when she remembered like back to her previous
Previous.
pregnancy. Like she felt just able to do more and
Awesome.
keep up with her 4-year old, 3-year old.
Hmm.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So yeah, she did great. And then I helped another woman out recover from C-section as well. So dealing with scar tissue recovery, and dealing with a little bit of some mental adjustments that you have to make postpartum. So that was also something that I also really try to help clients out with is understanding the mindset shift that you need to make again with your recovery, with your exercise.
Hmm.
Yeah, it has to look a little bit different, and just understanding like again that timeline of it's going to go all over the
Yeah.
place, but over time it is going to go up.
Right. Great. Thanks for sharing those. I think it's really helpful to hear those stories. So I think people, coming from different places, like people wanting a VBAC and like they don't have teams that are always supportive of that. So it's
Yeah.
so good to hear that there are people out there who are supportive of that. There's, when you're just kind of coming across these different challenges, it's really about, advocating for yourself and finding the right network of people to help
Yeah.
you, reach the goals and the place that you want to be. It's like they're
Yeah.
out there. It can be really hard to find, but hopefully folks hearing stories like this can feel optimistic,
Yeah.
on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
100%. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is find a support group, like find a
Hmm.
team, and definitely different people, right? Like
Yep.
you're like a good OBGYN, a good physical therapist, a good,
Yep.
I know like chiropractic is starting to pop up a
Hmm.
little bit more,
Yep.
mental health therapist, like having one lined up for postpartum, like that's 100%
Yeah.
something that I plan on next time.
Yeah.
Like having one lined
That's a
up and
great
ready to
one.
go
Yes. Yeah, because it's hard to then find those things. Like when you're in the midst of
when you're in
needing
it. Yeah.
help, it's hard. Yeah. I
Hmm.
think that's a great point. And it's one thing I found as well is I'm finding that when I find one good provider, they're often connected with a lot of other really good providers in those different specialties. So it's like my pelvic floor PT is like best friends with my OBGYN. And I didn't know that at the time, but like I came and my doula is like connected with all of them. And so it's nice too if you can find one and then ask them for referrals in those other spaces, because I think you'd be surprised like how connected, the birth community is.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's exactly
Mhm.
what like another thing that I love to offer my clients too is I'm making sure like networking, like
Mm,
I'm also not afraid to say I don't know.
yeah, which is
And
so
that's
important.
where
Yep.
like building resources is like, I've got a couple of physical therapists on board that I'm, referring back to and
Hmm.
asking, um, nutritionists that work with mothers specifically, either through pregnancy or breastfeeding. I know that's another big one too. And just pretty much anyone. I've got nurses that I can talk to, midwives,
Yep.
doulas, just building that community. Again, it's like the village to help the village.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. No, and it's a great network of folks, usually, if you can tap into it.
Mhm.
Great. So as we start to wrap up, do you want to have anything else that you'd like to share with us as far as your work or the importance of, pre and postnatal fitness, um, just in general?
Sure. I mean, basically is another myth or really just something to really touch upon that I feel like it doesn't really get educated enough for moms by their doctors really is exercise really helps have a strong and confident pregnancy,
Hmm.
being that it helps with pelvic girdle pain, it helps with back pain, it reduces the risk of preeclampsia and gestational diabetes. And it actually, if you are working out pretty much from beginning of pregnancy to the end, you actually develop a better functioning placenta. Like they've done comparisons of placentas of a mother that's worked out and eaten well and properly, and then versus a mother that's not, and there's significant differences, like just by
Wow.
looking at them.
Hmm.
It also actually decreases the risks of birth interventions, really specifically use of forceps and C-sections by 75%, which is
Wow. Yeah,
crazy.
that's huge.
It really helps moms really actually prepare for labor. And on the flip side of that too, which is really amazing, there's so many benefits for the baby for you to exercise. A lot of women go into it being scared that exercise is going to hurt the baby, right?
Right.
Big misconception of like crunches, heart rate too high,
Yeah.
lifting weights too much. There's, in my personal opinion, really like a lot of the like risks that are out there, it's almost worse to not exercise and
Yeah.
just go on bed rest for nine
Yeah.
months than it is to exercise, right? Like the big ones to say no to are anything that could cause any kind of like abdominal trauma, right? So like
Mhm.
horseback riding, playing
Yeah.
physical sports, skiing,
Right.
right? Anything that's like physical, right? That you could actually get injured. And then um, the sauna, hot yoga, those need to go
Hmm.
out. Those are definitely like no go. And then everything after that is really all dependent on the mom and the symptoms
Right.
and just monitoring it, right? Like if
Hmm.
you have a really athletic, strong mom, like she's going to be still like deadlifting, squatting because her body is
Hmm.
able to already handle that. Yeah, she might have to
Right.
modify with some weights, but you see some power lifters and Olympic lifters like lifting well into their pregnancy.
Right.
Okay. But
Yeah.
if you're the mom that also hasn't really exercised and like wants to start, yeah, you 100% can as well.
Hmm.
Like there's no
Yeah.
reason really not to, unless you have, some underlying health conditions where your
Sure.
doctor's like, yeah, we got to monitor those first. Of course, those
Right.
always come first. But for the baby, really, it actually can help prepare the baby for labor, which is great. Like the babies can actually handle the stress of labor with like increased heart rate down and up and down. Like you're almost kind of training with your baby, which is really cool. Like everything is
Hmm.
connected and also helps with baby's heart health as well. And then eventually down the line, it helps with actually preventing childhood obesity. It kind of sets them up for success and live a healthier lifestyle themselves, which is really
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely that movement is medicine is such an important message, I feel like, at all stages of our lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for talking with us today. We really appreciate hearing all your stories and insights.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great. I love making all the connections and I can't wait to work with you further. This was great.
Great. Thanks so much.